this channel is ideally focused on, the operations of Stronghold Digital Mining and what the company's doing from an operational perspective. And yes, of course, we talk a little bit of, as well about what's going on in the stock market. But invariably, and this is understandable, people who are new to the channel will oftentimes look at some of my other videos and they're like, wait a minute, I thought that this was maybe a channel that talked about, Bitcoin mining companies generally. But with this guy, it seems like all he talks about is Stronghold Digital Mining. And here he is sort of like hanging out by one of the waste coal reclamation facilities. And hey, I noticed on Twitter he posts photos of this other waste coal reclamation facility that Stronghold Digital Mining doesn't even own, but yet he talks about it in glowing terms. And, what's really going on here? And some people have very specifically asked, hey, I think you should elaborate on your relationship to the company, because it seems inconceivable that you're just an ordinary dude, pressing the record button on a camera and churning out the amount of content that you churn out, absent there being some sort of arrangement or some sort of situation going on that's maybe not being disclosed. So, as I've said before, I am not compensated by Stronghold Digital Mining. I'm not compensated by some hedge fund. I'm somebody who lives in the state of Pennsylvania. I'm somebody whose ancestors, or at least a part of my ancestors, were coal miners. Another portion of my ancestors worked in steel plants, making steel. So, I feel very connected to the state of Pennsylvania. And in particular, I have a very, very strong sense that the problem which waste coal remediation facilities, of which Stronghold Digital Mining owns two of these facilities, Scrubgrass out in western Pennsylvania, which is part of the PJM Penelec portion of the electric grid, and Panther Creek here on the eastern side of the state of Pennsylvania, which is part of the PJM PP&L portion of the electric grid. The problem that these facilities are attempting to solve, it's a really big problem. And it's one that has led to a lot of health problems amongst people in my community. And I don't like talking, at great length about these sorts of things. But I understand why there would be understandable curiosity and almost like bewilderment as to, what's this guy doing really? Like, what's the story? So the story really is that I became a co-owner of Stronghold Digital Mining beginning on June 10th, 2022. That's when I began purchasing shares of this company. And I've continued to do so sporadically throughout the time that has passed. I am admittedly very, very biased in the sense that I want to see these waste coal reclamation facilities continue to operate. I want to see them continue to exist. I want to see them continue to doing the mission critical environmental work that they are doing. When I remember reading about Stronghold Digital Mining coming public back in October of 2021. At the time, I was very involved in an ExxonMobil options trade. And my focus was on attempting to survive that trade because, needless to say, the entire, oil sector got demolished, during the years of the pandemic. And, it seemed to take a while for things to really kind of straighten themselves out. And so at the time, I just really, I wanted to focus on that. But I made a mental note of the fact that Stronghold Digital Mining had come to market as a public company. And I started to really get more and more interested in the company, probably starting in May of 2022. April, May, I really started to look a little bit closer at what was going on. And that coincided with the time when I very, very gratefully was able to exit my ExxonMobil options trade. And I really started thinking a little bit more in depth about what Stronghold was doing. There are other waste coal reclamation facilities in the state of Pennsylvania. I happen to live like really, really close to what was described in some of the early Stronghold Digital Mining public filings, right? Paperwork, that was, given, provided to the SEC as part of, their offering documents, what was referred to then as the third plant, which I'm like 99.99999% certain it's this plant, this waste coal reclamation facility that I have known for many, many years. I mean, and when I say that, I mean there's a trail that runs fairly close to that, to that facility, which I've been on numerous times. I've driven by that place. It's just right there. Like I see it like a lot. And I immediately felt this connection to the company because of that, as well as because of, as I mentioned before, my my ancestral connection to coal mining. I admit that my fervor insofar as talking about this company is a bit unusual, but I ask you to consider for a moment, okay, if you're somebody who happens to be a sports fan and you think about what we see sports fans doing, we see them wearing, specialized clothing with their favorite sports team logos on it. We see them painting their faces. We see them with banners and posters, right? We see them with bumper stickers on their vehicle. To date, I have not worn any sort of special clothing that says Stronghold Digital Mining. I have not plastered my vehicle with bumper stickers or painted my face or done anything like that, okay? So I ask you to at least take that into consideration when you think about whether or not I'm really being that extreme or fervent in the context of sports. Now, listen, I've also seen something, and this is perhaps more of a United States phenomena, right? Where I will literally see homes that are blanketed with almost like DIY billboards, with proclamations of, I don't know, like fealty to a particular, say, political candidate, okay? And that's great. I'm not knocking that. And nor am I knocking, a sports fan who chooses to really dress up and kind of go all out. That I think this is all great. My point, though, is, yes, I am very enthusiastic about Stronghold Digital Mining, but no, I have not created homemade billboards. I have not, worn all kinds of, clothing, with Stronghold Digital Mining, logos or anything like that. So, yes, I'm very animated, but no, I'm not as animated as sports fans or those who are, very animated about a particular, say, political candidate, or anything else like that. Okay, so there's that. I'm not compensated by the company. I'm not compensated by any hedge fund. Yes, I benefit when, right, the stock price goes up. I have an ownership interest, as you might as well, in this company. So all of us collectively as co-owners of this business, right, as shareholders of Stronghold Digital Mining, we all collectively benefit when our ownership interest, the value of our ownership interest, goes up. I have had, at this point now, I think it's coming on like 3 occasions where I could have actually flipped, so to speak, my shares and made close to like 100%. The first occasion was back in the late-ish, actually I think it might have been like August. I'd have to double check the chart, but it was like August-ish, kind of like early autumn-ish of last year, of 2022. Didn't sell a share. The next occasion came about earlier this year when, the stock, kind of took off. And then again now. And, my overriding kind of like philosophy here has been, I'd like to see Stronghold Digital Mining live up to its full potential. And that doesn't necessarily mean the stock price going up 20% in a day. I mean, hey, let's get our operations to a point where they're stable. They're pretty stable right now, to be fair. But I'm talking about the type of stability that means, we've got like so much positive cash flow because finally Bitcoin mining economics have really started to take off, and we can really tap into that. And that's going to help, right, make sure that we can keep these waste coal reclamation facilities operating. It could also take the form of our other revenue input, which is grid prices, right? Grid sales, electric prices, having them be really, really solid. And, we can derive some really useful income from that. I think that brings me to a point that I want to just share with you. Yes, we are a Bitcoin mining company. It's in our name, right? Stronghold Digital Mining. But what I don't know a lot of people really understand is that we actually, these waste coal reclamation facilities, they are essentially power plants. So we can take this waste coal, we can remove the overwhelming majority of the bad stuff that causes all kinds of like really toxic air pollution. We can get rid of all that stuff as part of the process that's used to turn it into electricity. We can then take that electricity and we could do one of two things with it. We can sell it to the grid, right? Like, in other words, when I turn on the lights, the electricity that is being used to turn the lights on is potentially, right, coming from a power plant such as Panther Creek, right, which goes into this larger pool of electricity that's flowing through the grid, right? There's not just one power plant, there's multiple power plants that serve this zone of the PJM grid. But that's one option, right? We can sell electricity to the grid. The other option is to take that electricity that we're creating ourselves and essentially use it to mine Bitcoin, right? To send power, to send electricity to our data center, right? We have a data center at Panther Creek. We have a data center out at Scrubgrass. And then we can use that electricity to mine Bitcoin. And it kind of comes down to like what makes the most mathematical sense. But we have that option. And that's really, really amazing and great to have. And I think that's something that's not entirely well understood. Be that as it may, let's kind of get back to the central question here. And hopefully at this point, you kind of get a better sense of what the story is. But I'm doing this because I really believe that Stronghold Digital Mining, like one of the biggest challenges that we have as a company, is that we are obscure. Okay, we're not as obscure as we perhaps once were, but I do believe that we still, have a lot of catching up to do in terms of just being a better recognized company within the Bitcoin mining ecosystem. I also am very aware, I'm still aware of how much negativity there is out there as it relates to Stronghold Digital Mining. When I started looking at the company back in the middle of 2022, I just noticed that, it seemed like YouTube was nothing but this lunar landscape of mostly just negative commentary about the company, which I kind of thought was like unfair ultimately. Hey, look, any of us can sit around and churn out negative content about any particular topic or person or company, right? But I think it's also useful to take that same sort of motivation and say, hey, what if I can churn out positive or at least, intellectually honest, right, material about a company, not intellectually dishonest material that, kind of just attempts to beat up on the company. So I was really keen on trying to turn things around a little bit. And you know what? There's a number of us now. On Twitter, we have a very active community of fellow co-owners. And even here now on YouTube, right? There's a core group of us. Thank you, by the way, so much. I read your comments. There's a core group of us that really feel pretty strongly about the future of this company. So hopefully now you have a better understanding of why I only pretty much talk about Stronghold Digital Mining. Look, I live in the state of Pennsylvania. I'm very passionate about waste coal reclamation. I think we need to get rid of this crap. It's terrible that we have it. I want to see that go away. And the best way to see that stuff go away is for these waste coal reclamation facilities to stay in business, to stay operating, right? And I think Bitcoin offers us the potential to do that. And so for those reasons, as well as a number of other reasons that are kind of even more personal to me, which I don't think are germane to a video like this, I am just very, very committed. I'm very focused on, and really just ultimately, dare I say, even as the popular term would be, don't get married to any stock, whatever, it'll cloud your judgment. I think I'm past that point. I think I'm essentially married, so to speak, to Stronghold Digital Mining. And yes, I admit, I can become very defensive. Despite my attempt to always be very, I think, diplomatic and to you know what I mean? Like, hey, we want to be cooperative, compete with ourselves, cooperate with others. I can become very defensive when I see that this company is being attacked, because I know how much hard work is being done on a day-to-day basis to keep this company going. And I'm just so incredibly proud of the work that has been done and that continues to be done, and that I'm confident will continue to be done in the future. We're all in this together, okay? I may not work at Stronghold Digital Mining, but I am as much, I just feel like as much of a kind of like of a booster for this business as, say, a sports fan who, cheers on their favorite team. At least in this instance, hey, I'm a co-owner of the business, as you may be as well. If you own shares of Stronghold Digital Mining, you're a shareholder, you are a co-owner of this business. Consider remaining a co-owner, for a period of time. Let's see how this story unfolds. Let's see, how this journey is going to end. I foresee some really amazing and good things for us, but a lot hinges, as I've said before, on our two core revenue drivers: grid sales, right? The price of electricity, and Bitcoin mining economics. We need one or both of those to work in our favor, right? For us to be able to produce the kinds of results that will help us, stay the course and to be successful and to ultimately live into our full potential as a company. I hope this answers the question. It's okay that it comes up. But yeah, that's a bit more about me, about this channel, and why I am just so singularly focused on Stronghold Digital Mining, not just today, but tomorrow and for the foreseeable future. Okay, let's stay positive. Let's be great. We'll see each other tomorrow.